think that Democratic leaders know what Democratic voters want right now?
Well, obviously, we have to listen to the voters. We are seeing many people being more vocal, more excited, more hopeful about what is possible, not just within the Democratic
What
Party.
happens when a Democrat is asked whether party leaders are actually listening to voters? Ilhan Omar says they need to listen more than they talk. From a conservative perspective, that answer raises a much bigger question. Are Democrats finally realizing that voters are frustrated with the direction of their party? Like this video, subscribe, and let's get into it.
And thank you, Congresswoman, for being here. You heard Mike Rogers' message there. He is trying to reach out to Democrats, moderate Democrats, who maybe don't like Abdul El-Sayed. Do you think that a message like that is going to convince them to vote for the Republican in this race?
Well, thank you so much, Caitlin, for having me. It is my belief, having been in Michigan, that Democrats ultimately believed that they were going to be united after the primary fight was over. And what you are seeing at that rally with that unification is Democrats saying, this is the moment where we unite, where we have a unified message, where we collectively go out and convince the rest of Michigan to join us in electing Abdul as a senator, because in this moment, we need to have a Senate that is a check and a balance to the administration, a Senate that is going to fight for working people, a Senate that is going to lead with courage and integrity, and that Senate is only possible with people like Abdul El-Sayed there.
What is the right way to unify the Democratic coalition? You know, not just...
Ilhan Omar was asked whether Democratic leaders really understand what Democratic voters want right now. Her response focused on listening to voters, uniting Democrats after primary battles, and fighting for working-class Americans. But from a conservative perspective, there is a bigger question. Are Democratic leaders actually responding to the concerns voters are raising about the economy, government, immigration, crime, and the direction of the country? In this commentary, we break down Omar's remarks and examine what they could mean for Democrats, Republicans, and voters heading into the next election.
You know, not just in Michigan, but everywhere. But in Michigan, in terms of what we saw in this primary battle, is it because, do you think Abdul El-Sayed needs to moderate some of his positions that maybe turns off moderates? Do you think he needs to hold firm to what he ran on and that made him the nominee? What's your view on what needs to happen in the next, 87 days?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I believe that people want real change. And regardless of how tough our primaries get as Democrats, we turn around the day after the primary election and we fight for our ticket to make sure that we are representing the values of what it means to be a Democrat, what it means to have strong labor unions, what it means to fight for the working class, what it means to make sure families have the ability to put food on the table, and what it means to keep attention to the district, the state, and the country that you represent.
Do you think that Democratic leaders know what Democratic voters want right now?
Well, obviously, we have to listen to the voters. We are seeing many people being more vocal, more excited, more hopeful about what is possible, not just within the Democratic Party, but across the country. And Democratic leaders, whether they are current incumbents like myself, or they are people that are running for election at the moment, are keeping their ears on the ground, trying to listen more than they talk, and are trying to make sure that we are governing on behalf of the people that we seek to represent.
Ilhan Omar was recently asked a very simple question. Do Democratic leaders actually know what Democratic voters want right now? And honestly, her answer was more interesting than the question. Omar said Democratic leaders need to listen to voters, listen more than they talk, and make sure they are governing on behalf of the people they represent. From a conservative perspective, that sounds reasonable. But here's the problem. If Democratic leaders already understand what voters want, why does Omar have to emphasize listening more? The interview centered around Michigan's Senate race and Abdul El-Sayed, with Omar arguing that Democrats will unite after their primary and rally behind their nominee. She described the Democratic agenda in familiar terms: strong labor unions fighting for working-class Americans, helping families put food on the table, and creating a Senate that can act as a check on the administration. But conservatives should pay attention to something else here. Democrats are clearly trying to present themselves as the party fighting for working Americans. The question is whether voters actually believe that message. For years, Republicans have argued that working-class Americans are increasingly questioning whether Democratic policies are really improving their everyday lives. People care about the cost of groceries. They care about housing. They care about wages, taxes, crime, energy prices, immigration, and whether government is actually delivering results. And this is where Omar's statement about listening becomes important. Saying you are listening to voters is easy. The real test is whether your policies reflect what those voters are telling you. Omar also defended the idea that Democrats should unite after a difficult primary instead of continuing internal battles. That makes political sense. Once the primary is over, parties need to bring their coalition together if they want to win the general election.